to another afternoon edition of the Ad Podcast. We've got an exciting guest for you guys today. Luke Lashley is a creative entrepreneur and executive producer who founded Departure, a company that streamlines how agencies and production teams find and match with directors and photographers for creative projects. Under his leadership, Departure has grown from directors who fit for one of the largest direct sources of creative talent, helping agencies quickly identify directors who fit their specific briefs and maximize production budgets, especially in the 500K and below range. Before starting Departure, Luke served as a managing partner and executive producer at BL&S and has extensive experience as a director and editor in media production. Luke, thanks so much for joining, man.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Let's go. So I want to get into it pretty quick, but everybody starts with an intro and a bio. So where'd you grow up? What'd you study? How'd you get into the EP filmmaking space? Tell us a little bit about where you came from.
Sure. I grew up in Dallas, Fort Worth. And as a kid, kind of the classic, wanted to be a director, fell in love with filmmaking at a young age, like so many of us do. And I thought I was going to be a director pretty much until I was in my mid-20s. And the story there is interesting because I didn't realize it at the time, but all the way through like my kind of teenage years where you're building that portfolio that you're going to apply to film school with, I really didn't realize how much of a commercial portfolio I was actually building. I was like half filmmaker, half entrepreneur, and my high school job was shooting weddings. So
there we go.
Yeah. And it was a great high school job because, I could charge like $1,200 for a wedding video, which compared to the other options at the time was a real bargain, but to a high school kid is just
that's bank.
It's bank, dude. So it was, my senior year, I shot like something like 30 weddings, and it was really cool. And I had shot some short films and stuff, but I applied really only to 2 film schools, which was NYU and UCLA. And I was
those are the 2 that I applied to as well.
Yeah. And I thought for sure I was I'm going to be a director. And I didn't really appreciate how much, I guess, my portfolio in that sense was commercial, because a lot of it was like paid stuff, and I got denied at both. And it was
that was my experience too, by the way. I got denied at both, so I ended up at UCSB.
Yeah. So that was my first kind of nudge towards a commercial career, and I kind of did some soul searching, ended up studying finance at Texas State, and worked at a different production company, like very briefly, and then made a decision like, hey, I'm going to do it on my own. I think I could, I felt fairly business savvy, and still at that point though, thought I was going to be a director. Like, I'm going to start a production company for me. And it wasn't until I started working with some really talented directors that I realized y'all are way better at this than I am.
Wow.
This is not my highest calling. And that was my like mid-20s. Yeah. So that's when I decided I'm going to be a producer.
I love it. I had the exact same experience, but from the screenwriter side. So when I got out of school, I moved to Hollywood and got a job at a reality TV production company as a development guy. And, the adage back when you came to Hollywood, it was like, do you do the waiting tables and bartending thing and then write at night, or write when you have your days free? And then, or do you get like an industry job and then like try to write when you have downtime? And then I met Stephen J. Cannell, who produced like 46 TV shows. And he was like, well, Dylan, what's your writer process? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's my writer process? He's like, well, when do you write? You want to be a screenwriter? When do you write? And I was like, well, I go to work. I have a demanding Hollywood job. I work from 9 in the morning to 6:30 at night. And if I don't go to a networking event at night, then I write for an hour. And he like laughed at me. And I was like, what are you laughing at, man? That's not very nice to like laugh at some 21-year-old kid. And he basically said when he got out of school, he worked at his dad's furniture store. Every night he would come home and write from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then a half day on Saturdays. And then for 4.5 years, he eventually got an agent. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be a producer.
I'm not a writer after all. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Similar journey there for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes you find out that like you really love the sausage, but you're not as obsessed with how the sausage is made, and you like to the business side is calling to you, so to speak. So
yeah, and I mean, to continue the sausage metaphor, I almost kind of had the realization that I care more about how it's made than the metaphorical chefs that really want to make it just like the best quality product. Like that's a director that I just want to make this taste so good, and I'm like very obsessed about the supply chain of where we got our ingredients from, kind of thing. And
yeah,
you realize you're maybe more on the business side.
I love it. So you spent some time at BL&S. Tell me about that.
Sure. Yeah, that was my company I started. So I started.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so that was your production company.
That's right. Yeah. So
Cool.
that's the first production company I started, and I started that with a partner. And that was my, first foray into the industry, and also where I learned how the director representation game works. We repped directors exclusively for a time. We repped kind of hybrid, semi-exclusive, which we can nerd out on if you'd like, but that's super.
Yeah, well, I know. Like I used to. So when I was on the influencer side, we had directors that had big social media followings, so we helped them with their social media deals. But then they were repped by another shop for TV, and then they were repped by another shop for digital, and they were repped by another group for movies and TV. So it was like it felt very like there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah, and that's similar in kind of production company world. Most production companies have rosters, and most of them present exclusively, and not all rosters are fully exclusive, and we were doing that same thing. We had names on the site, but they weren't always fully exclusive to us. And it really reached a point where I got more obsessed with like the freelance way of working than presenting a roster of names. And that was what kind of created the jumping off point to close BL&S and start Departure.
Wow. So basically you saw that there was a tech play in the space, and there was an opportunity to kind of build some SaaS and take that approach.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a tech platform. I think we take a lot of cues from like SaaS industry and like that kind of structure for sure. But we're not like a marketplace, and we don't have a it's not a tech solution as much as it is like a model innovation.
Well, tell me about how what you guys are doing is different and innovative, and what are the issues that you are addressing that you saw when you were doing it the old-fashioned way with BL&S?
Yeah, I mean, the original jumping off point was that really just director representation didn't sit right with me. I think exclusive representation, it feels like somebody always loses. The different scenarios there is like, let's say I rep 10 directors exclusively and I get a board from an agency. I really want to win work. I have to win work to keep my business afloat. And even if maybe one of my 10 directors isn't perfect for that brief, I'm going to just submit who I think is the closest. I want to at least shoot my shot, right? Yeah. And so in that scenario, really the agency loses because I am giving them a reel to watch that's kind of wasting their time. Conversely, I could pitch someone off my roster, a freelancer, who maybe is a better fit. But if I do that, then I'm kind of not doing justice to the directors that I rep exclusively, who I should be all in on. And it seems like just kind of everyone, there's somebody that loses in a lot of scenarios because of an obsession with exclusivity. And so the kind of the innovation and the headspace was, what if we only worked with freelancers, and what if that was all about having the perfect fit for every brief? And since we're only working with independent directors, we're not constrained from a numbers point of view. We could build a really big pool, like the biggest pool that's ever existed. So that was exciting thing that made me jump. And I made that jump in 2024. So it's really hasn't been that long. And we have the largest pool of directors in the US currently. So
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. So now you're working with a large pool of directors. You have the largest. You've broken free from this traditional model. So we talked about a scenario before where you get a brief and you have 10 people exclusively on your roster, but it might not be perfect for any one of those. How many directors do you have on the roster now with this new model?
Yeah, the pool in total is about 350 artists. It's about 250 directors plus 100 and something photographers plus some AI artists as well. So about 350 unique names. Yeah.
So when you go from 10 to 350, does it become hard to match when you have like, it's almost like now you've got a bigger problem, right? Because now you might have the perfect guy in there, but how do you like drill down and find that perfect person every time?
Yeah, it's equal parts. There are no problems because like we don't see a brief now that we don't have a good fit for. So in
That's
that
good. Yeah.
sense, it's like it's really satisfying. I mean, it happened twice today. We got there are 2 briefs today that we just chuckled to ourselves of like how strangely perfect somebody is, and that part of it's really exciting and fun. But yeah, there is a bit of like a systems building of how do you keep that much work organized. You know, every director has, call it 60 to 100 things in their portfolio. So 300 times 100, it's a ton of work that we're cataloging and then building reels off of. And so yeah, it just Lucas is my business partner, he's in LA, and I think we've just done a really good job of being organized and building systems to like manage all that. But the satisfying bit is the match. And as our director pool grows, the matches just get better and better. And that part of it's super fun.
That's awesome. So walk me through a brief and how you kind of take that 350 and start to curate down to that perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, we really think of it as like craftsmanship elements. So every brief they're searching for a director who has done that exact thing. They're at some level, a brand and an agency are kind of buying the work almost more than the person. And when you approach it from that point of view, it actually filters itself fairly logically. If it's a food tabletop board that is, has a monochromatic background and, fluid camera moves that are shot on a robotic arm kind of thing. It's like those are multiple levels of specificity. And so the pool kind of filters it. Well, who does food? Okay, well, who does food in a colorful format? Who does food in a colorful format with, fluid camera movement? And then that'll spit out 2 names. And then you look at those reels, you're like, oh my gosh, these are perfect. So that's kind of the approach, is we're really just looking through the script of what are the craftsmanship elements that this requires to execute.
That's awesome. And you talked about like you're kind of customizing the submission back to the client as well. So when you kind of narrow down to those 2 names, are you then taking like the reels or the source work of those clients and kind of editing those into like a pitch reel or a mood board, or like how are you customizing those pitching the talent back to the client?
Yeah, I mean, we submit reels in the same format as everybody else, and in that sense, we're not unique. Every production company is submitting a director reel, and they're never montage reels. It's like 6-ish finished spots. So, we're submitting 6-ish finished spots just like every other production company. We just think our fitness is really high across a wide range of briefs that in that sense makes us really unique.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
You talked about kind of a gap on the representation side, especially around this idea of exclusivity. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the space that I was in for like the last 9 years, which is the influencer marketing space. Like,
Yeah.
You've got all these influencers and they generally have, like, the big ones have real exclusive talent, real exclusive representation, even people that work in-house and only represent them alone. But then you've got all these influencer agencies that don't have any relationship or have like a tangential relationship to the talent out there, representing to the world that they have this talent, either exclusively, non-exclusively, or they don't even have a relationship. They just have that person in a database. What was the kind of gap on the brand and agency side that you felt like this model would help, alleviate some of the pain points? Like, what were the things that they were missing that having this non-exclusive, larger representation pool helped them with?
I think if I understand your question, you're saying like the gap. What gap are we addressing in?
Yeah, like basically, like what was the, like what do you think is the biggest problem with the old model for the brand or the agency?
Right. Well, I think there are briefs where what the brand and agency are after is a name, and by a name, they're really looking for a high profile director. If you've got $2 million national broadcast, this is a tent pole campaign kind of thing. They're finding that director is actually really easy because there's only 10 or 20 production companies that roll at that very upper crust. And so if I'm the agency or if I'm the brand, my buying process is really easy. If I've got $2 million to spend, there's just not that many places that are fit for that. And so and you're typically embarking on that journey with already a name in mind, because you're like, oh, well, we want fill in the blank, star director, where there's a big inefficiency and a lot of congestion and just mess is when you're spending 300 grand a day. And now you're not really sure who's right. And that star director probably isn't going to do it, and there's not 20 companies, there's literally 1,000. And so now my buying process is kind of a disaster. And that's where, you hear agency producers who literally get 500 reels submitted to them. And it's just, how am I going to watch all these? And they don't watch all of them. And same issue on the brand side. So that's really, I think, where we fit in. And you mentioned that at the top of the intro, but our sweet spot really is that kind of middle market work, that volume work, where it's less of a name. They're really just looking for fitness.
Do you see the capabilities of AI being able to now watch videos? Like when somebody sends in 500, like if a producer is receiving 500 submissions, 500 reels to comb through, do you see AI being able to play a part in kind of the weeding down, or is it just not there yet from like being able to like, actually spot creativity or good work? Is it just too mechanized at this point?
That's an interesting question. I don't see AI filling that role. And in general, the AI conversation is super interesting because I think our industry at some level, or, especially like brands and like executive type folks who are responsible for like saving money, I think we're in saving time. They're looking to AI as a tool to do that. It'll save us time watching reels, or it'll save us time and money making things. And we find that, our belief is that most of the inefficiency and wastage is not actually it's not happening on set. It's happening leading up to set. And it's the system itself of how, a brand hires an agency who then goes to sales reps, and then production companies now have the reel, and then it all has to get sent back. That's
a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
There's a lot of steps there. And that's a huge source of time and money inefficiency, in our opinion. So, but in terms of AI watching reels, I would be highly skeptical of that.
Is your preference to like, because that was a big part of like the influencer marketing rub, where it was like client, influencer agency puts out a brief to an influencer marketing platform or company that then is reaching out to management that then gets back to the creator, right? So like almost the same amount of steps.
Exactly.
And then a lot of the ways that we were able to start chipping away at stuff like that is going brand direct. Are you finding more business is happening directly with the brand, or do you think there's still these layers of kind of inefficient markups and inefficient, communication, having to play telephone back and forth between all these parties?
Oh yeah, you're speaking our language right now. We're very much the next, step for us, and what we're really excited about going into 2026 is building partnerships with brands. We can go down that rabbit hole if you'd like, but
yeah, sure. I think next year is going to be the year of like whether it's AI or like I think you're going to start to see a lot of legacy business models broken up and a lot more efficiency because of AI. But I think what that also you're going to see is like brands are just going to bring more of this stuff in house, right?
Yeah, I think everyone's seemingly saying the same thing, which is, hey, we need to be more efficient with our time and our money, and every dollar is under scrutiny. And there's all this data that says most, CMOs feel like they don't have the budget to execute what they're required to do. And, every, spending's down and all that kind of stuff. Regardless of like the economic condition, I think it's just an exciting time because everybody can just feel the pressure. Everybody can, I think if you ask anybody in our industry, there's kind of just a general vibe of like so much of this doesn't work. And for maybe the first time in a long time, folks are really open to new ways of working because of that. So that's really exciting for us. And on the brand partnership side, I mean, if you think about a major marketer, there's really never been a production company. This is kind of a bold claim, but I believe it. There's never really been a production company that it made much sense for a major marketer to partner with, because most production companies maybe have 12. If you're a big production company, you've got 25, maybe 30 names on your roster. And most major marketers are doing more than 12 to 25 things. They're doing.
Yeah, you're gonna crank through that talent pool pretty fast.
Yeah, you do not have enough talent to really serve me on a partner level. You can be a vendor to me on that 1 or 2 jobs a year I do with you, but I'm not going to really like partner with you. And so much of the long-term vision when I started Departure was building partnerships with brands. But before we could even entertain that conversation, we had to build the talent offering to like justify it. So now that we're here, the next step for us is building those brand partnerships, because we have the talent to truly back it up. Yeah.
I love it. So you're going to this, I'd say, let's call it like below the line 500K range shoots, and you're building this pool and you're up to 350. How do you evaluate directors and creatives and find and scout and add new talent to the network?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think really what we look for is proficiency in any one thing. And we call it like viability, which a lot of people use that word in our industry. I suppose it's kind of subjective, but yeah, we're looking at the director's portfolio to see, is there a thing that this person does really well? And if a brief is looking for that thing, is the work of a level that it's viable? So like that could mean a lot of different things. Excuse me, but
you're all good.
Yeah, that could mean a lot of different things, but that could be do they do big budget comedy really well? Like that's kind of a bigger stage and a bigger craft, but there's people in the pool that do, really beautiful kind of like talking head testimonials really well. So just whatever it is that you're doing, do you do it well? And are you doing it at a level that we think is viable in a sale is really what we're evaluating.
Love it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a recent project or a project that you have brought to life that you feel like really exemplifies why you're building this model and you feel like is a proof point of like, hey, we're on the right track here?
Yeah. We did a job this year that was a pharma ad. It's not out yet, so I'll be kind of cryptic about who it was and the agency,
Oh,
but
good.
a major brand, a very large pharma company and agency we all know of. And I think it was just the whole model working in every way, which first was the brief went wide. Everyone seemed to have the brief. And what we can kind of tell when briefs have gone wide or not, because, we're clearing these freelancers saying, hey, are you clear to submit? And when some people are saying, hey, I've already been submitted, we have a great kind of indicator of how wide a brief has gone. So this brief went really wide. We knew everyone had it. We still had a really great fit that was just one of those satisfying matches. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is strangely specific. We have gotten very specific here. And then shortlisted, and come to find out it was a 5-way bid. So they weren't triple bidding, or they were quintuple bidding, that is fine. And that is their prerogative to do. But we won the 5-way bid. So it just is a testament then of like, not only are we providing good matches, but we're pitching and selling really well and actually winning the job. And then the job itself was just incredibly challenging and like kind of overwritten, and most creative briefs are overwritten and for the budget, but we really put like every dollar on screen. And that is very satisfying when you're really stretching every buck and then they're thrilled with it. So it kind of checks out on every level for us. And that was a slam dunk. It was a pharma ad that when you see it out in the world, you might recognize it. It doesn't look like a pharma ad. It was shot more like a Nike commercial. It feels like a sports, action sports, almost like a Gatorade commercial, but it was actually for a drug. But
that's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a pharma ad that was good, that like kind of like bucks the trend. And
it really bucked the trend. It was cool, creative. So that was a really fun one this year.
That's awesome. Are there any trends in production or advertising that really excite you right now and you think are validating moving to this model?
I think the trends that excite us is kind of the pressure we've talked about a little bit already. Like the fact that everyone is under so much pressure to be smarter with their time and their dollars, and everyone is feeling that pressure. That really excites us. Like I said, it's like, I think it's opening people up to maybe different ways of working or different ways of partnering. And that's like a very exciting headspace and like place to operate for us. And so it's seeming like that is the trend. I mean, AI is kind of a part of that, right? It's like, that's a time-saving tool more than anything, a money-saving tool. It's just people crying out for like, hey, can we spend our dollars better? Can we spend our time better? And that is, we don't think, going away. Our industry is just being forced to reconcile with like smaller budgets and high expectations. And that is the big trend that I feel like I see it every day. And we find that super exciting because that's kind of what we built for. So
sounds like you're a little ahead of the time there. What advice would you give to aspiring directors or creatives today who want to break into this space? What should they be doing to get companies like yours attention?
Don't break into the space. Don't do it. No, that is a bad joke. Absolutely break into. Um, if we want to talk directors specifically, because I think that's probably the only place I'm qualified to speak to, is I think directors should, as best they can, even though this is kind of a boring answer and directors probably don't like hearing this, is kind of like pick a lane, pick a thing, and then like treat it as your work. You know, I think if you pick a lane, it can kind of feel less artful, maybe, or you know, oh, I do so much. I'm not a comedy guy. I do all this other stuff, and it's like I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you're great at it. But if you're trying to really break in, you need a 6-spot reel, and if you only have 2 comedy spots and then like a doc and then a music video, it's like that is not viable when we talked about viability. So pick something you're fine to do a lot of, something you enjoy enough to make a career out of, and then really double down on that lane and build a good reel on it.
That's interesting. You know, we talked a little bit about AI, so I think we're good on that. But has there been other technology or project management innovations that you feel like has empowered the way that you guys operate?
Project management in like tech and stuff, you mean?
I just feel like, you know, I just keep coming back to this idea that if like, you know, 10 wasn't enough, 350 sounds like hard to manage. And it feels like you said, like, you got to be super organized. You got to have great processes. You know, you got to be able to react at the speed of light. You know, you're not just quadruple bidding, you're sextuple bidding now. And, you know, you've got like a lot of competition, a lot of pressure on rates, a lot of pressure to deliver fast. It feels like process is like a way to like differentiate there.
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, a good database system for keeping track of everybody and a really great, you know, reel management system that has all of everybody's portfolio and it lets us build reels quickly. I think where we solve the inefficiencies though that we've been talking about, and like where we're able to be a good partner to brands and actually like provide real value and enact some change that is meaningful to a marketer, is not because we have some tech, and I don't really know if tech is going to be the solution for anybody. Like, it's such a human business, and like, you know, we're on set making stuff. It's very physical, and set is not where money's wasted. It's the relationships where money's wasted, and the lack of partnership, and the fact that everything's a one-off job. And then since it's a one-off job, a production company wants to make as much money as it can on every job. So
yeah, it's transitory.
Yeah, if I win a job, my job is to make as much margin as I can, because winning jobs is hard as a production company, and that is directly opposite of what the creative goals are and the client's goals are, which is like, hey, put as much as my money on screen as you can. Like, those are very opposite interests. And so the change that we think we can really enact is getting those interests more aligned. And that's really less of like a tech solution and more of just like a business model, partnership, rate structure, that kind of change.
Yeah, no, well, look, you know, I think you're right. I think in times of great chaos, provide great opportunity. And I think we're definitely in a moment that is speaking to that, you know, today. And yeah, I think what you guys are doing really cool. I'm glad you came on. Luke, if people want to connect with you directly and try out your model, where's the best place? Where do you want to send folks?
Website is www.departure.us. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm just Luke Lashley on LinkedIn. And then I'm Luke@departure.us if you want to email me.
Let's go.
Cool.
All right, everybody. If you're following along tonight and this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you are listening to the podcast, if you give us an honest review, that's how the show finds a wider audience organically. And if there is an aspiring director, creator, AI artist, a brand who you think could benefit from getting this new way of matchmaking creative talent projects, or more importantly, just somebody who you think would benefit from the conversation that I had with Luke tonight, don't forget to share the show. And with that, Luke, I'll look forward to following along and seeing how you guys do.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dylan.
All right. Have a good night, man.
See ya.